कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वर गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Okay, we will start the class with singing the 12th chapter. And today we will add one more slok. Okay, so because online kids are more, so how about you guys sing? And we will be not singing, like we will singing in our mind, okay, so that we don't have to do twice the whole thing. So you guys start singing the 12th chapter. So everybody unmute your video so you all can sing. So Alia, we are singing the 12th chapter. Can you open the 12th chapter in your Gita? Okay. You guys ready? Everybody ready? Okay. Let's go. Arjuna Vacha
Evam satatayyuttaye varnastvam paripasate chapyaksharam tesam ke yoga vittama Parvacha Yavishya mano ye mam nitya yukta upasate shraddhaya parayopetas deme yukta dhamata ye tvaksharamanirdesyam avyaktam paripasate sarvatra chintyam cha gittastam achalan dhruvam samyavendriya grama sarvatra samabuddhaya te prabhuvanti ramameva sarvabhuta hiterava Itu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matvara amanye yogena mam dhyayanta upasate Jamaham samudarta Nami Macheta Pata Maya Vesita Chetasa Mana Adastvam Maya Buddhi Nivesya Simayeva Atta Udhavam Naisamsaya Atha Chittam Samadhatu Asagnosi Majdira Abhyasa Yogeno Tato Mamichatam Tanadhyaya
अभ्यासेऽप्य समर्थोऽसि
मत्कर्म परमो भव मदर्थमपि कर्माणि कुर्वन्नमवाप्स्यसि.
Okay, good job, guys. So we did 10 sloks now so far, right? So we are at the 10th slok, and then we're going to keep adding one slok every week, and then we can sing the whole thing by next 10 weeks. Okay, so let's do that. That's what is gonna happening. Okay, let's go and do 2 minutes meditation. So everybody close their eyes, put their palms on their lap, and eyes closed, with one thought, only one thought. That thought is, I am strong, and with God's grace, I can do anything. Okay, we're gonna open our eyes slowly. Nice job. Okay, so we are doing the chapter number 4, and I'm excited that we are on the last slok of chapter 4, right? So we are finishing up chapter 4 today. Isn't that exciting?
Yes.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, so we will go to chapter 4 and slok number 42. So last time we studied the 41, where it says that he who renounce, I already have the renunciation of fruit of action, right? So the person who renounced the fruit of all the actions, then doubt are destroyed by knowledge for that person, and who is self-possessed, that person is not bound to the action or results of action, right? So we already got to know that part so far. So Krishna Bhagavan now ending this chapter by this 42nd slok. Okay, so we will sing the 42nd slok. Krish, you want to take that slok?
Sure.
Okay, let's sing that, guys.
Tasmad ajnana sambhutam
Tasmat ajnana sambhutam
Hristam Jnanasinatmana
Hristyam Jnanasinatmana
Chitvenam Samshayam Yogam
Chitvena Sanshayam Yogam
Astito Tishta Bharata
Atito Tishta Bharata. All together. Tasmad Jnana Sambhutam Yashtam Jnanasanatmana Chitvenam Samshayam Yogam Adishto Tishta Bharata. Okay, so here Krishna Bhagavan is saying that therefore, he explained everything. Now he is saying therefore, descent of Bharat means the son of Bharat, means there was a king Bharat. The Pandavas are generation of Bharata, king Bharat. So son of Bharat, destroy the doubts born from ignorance of self. Destroy that is seated in your heart, so that in the ignorance is so seated in your heart. It is in your heart all the time, right? So what he's saying, that destroy the doubt that is firmly seated in you about the ignorance of self, right? With the sword of knowledge, that take to the yoga and arise. So now you know what situation we are in a battlefield where Arjuna is saying not to get up, right? Not to go and battle. So Krishna Bhagavan is talking to him and saying that now destroy everything, destroy these doubt that you have, right? About what he has a doubt, what he has the ignorance on, about his self, like what is our real self, which we all have, right? So he's saying that destroy that with the sword of knowledge. So get the knowledge, with the sword of this knowledge, you destroy all the doubts and get up and stand up and do what? Do your actions, right? So he talks about so much in this, that how your actions are not bound. Who people who got this knowledge, who is living this knowledge of their self, the real self, then any action that he's doing, he's worried about his actions, right? He's worried about his actions, saying that, oh, if I do this action, I will get into sin. So Krishna Bhagavan explained him everything in this 4th chapter, how actions are renounced, like actions are taken off for people who are what? Enlightened, right? So that's what he's explaining here, that you have ignorance of what? Ignorance of sansara, ignorance of the whole, the self, what is our real self. So destroy that and get up. Uttishta means get up, Bharata, get up Arjun and fight for it. He doesn't say fight for it here, but it means that get up and go for it, do the action, right? So that's where Krishna Bhagavan ends the chapter 4, and that's where we end chapter 4, which was, let's go back and revise the highlights of chapter 4. What were the highlights of chapter 4? Because we cannot revise all 42 shloks. So what we're going to do is we're going to revise the main purpose of chapter 4 and what was in chapter 4, right? So I will start with asking you guys, what is one thing that you remember or you have known for chapter 4? Like, what is one thing that you know from chapter 4 as of right now? I know when we take the test, you will test, or whatever we're gonna do next week, but what is one thing that you know at this point sitting here of chapter 4? Who's gonna go first? You okay? Okay. Chapter 4, anything that you remember from last classes? Nobody remember anything about chapter 4? Yeah. Anybody wants? Yes, Sunny, go with it.
Like the sacrifices, like not like sacrifice, like the not the sacrifice. I meant
The yagna.
the fire. Yeah, the yagnas.
Yeah.
The fire, and then
You are right, Sunny. It says in English, if you translate yagna, it's fire sacrifices. That's what.
Oh,
it is.
okay.
Okay, go ahead.
There's like, let me give my thing. I have it specifically, but that's what I remember. But
The 12 yagnas, right?
yeah.
Yes.
So let me find it real quick.
Yeah.
There's like one is the fire is Brahman, and the offering is lower self.
Yes.
And yeah, the one is there's just regular fire, and the offering is food or fruit. The third one is self-discipline is the fire, and then offering is the senses.
Yeah.
4 is powerful senses is the fire, and the offering is the sense. And then 5 for the fire is the function of the senses, and the offering is the mind. 6 is the person in need is the fire, and the offering is money or time or an object.
Yeah.
For the 7th one, the God is the fire, and the vows are the offering.
Yeah.
And then for the 8th one, the mind is the fire, and the offering is physical or mental control.
Yeah.
Then for Swordaya Yagna, God is the fire, and then the offering is the chanting of Vedic hymns.
Yeah.
The 10th one, Gyan Yagna, the self-realization is the fire, and then the offering is the studying of scriptures. And then the 11th one is Pranayam, which is the fire is body or mind, and then the offering is breathing. I don't have the 12th one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the 12th one was, the yagna was, let me tell you so you can fill that part. Pranayam was, the 12th one, I think he comes back to give that penance.
Yeah.
Then yogi, exhalation. Oh, the last one is the food, right? The regulation of food. Sacrifices, function to senses, in the senses all indeed knower of the sacrifice.
Is it chapter 4, slope 30?
30 is the offering is the food, right?
Into what?
Into the body. Offering of, so the fire is the body and the offering is the food that we offered the body. Okay. So good, great. I like it. Good, Sanya. Okay. Karnu wanted to say something?
I remember from a few classes ago that if you want to do something, you must have the desire, and then you will be able to do it.
Good, yes, true. Okay. What do you want to say, Sia?
So I remember the stages of life.
Uh-huh.
So the first one is Brahmacharya, which is a student.
Uh-huh.
And then it's Grihasthashram, which is married. And then Vanprasthashram, which is retired. And then Sannyasashram, which is monk.
Yeah, good, nice. What do you do? Avi, you want to say?
Yeah, I remember the steps to get enlightened. So have to purify the mind, and you have to concentrate. Then you get the knowledge, and then you live the knowledge.
Good, nice. Okay, Sean, go ahead.
Remember the 3 main principles to attain knowledge. You have to have faith, you have to have commitment, and you have to have self-control.
Self-control, yeah, good. Okay, anybody else here? Okay, Krish, you want to say something?
Sure. I remember the 5 koshas.
5 koshas? Okay.
Which is the Annamaya kosha, the Pranamaya kosha, which is the breathing, which is like one of the yamnas that Sandra was talking about. Then the Manomaya Kosha, which is the mind, the Vigyanmaya Kosha, intellect, and Anandmaya Kosha was.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's go quick revision, right? So we started chapter 4. What is the name of chapter 4? It is the Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So remember that one, okay? So Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, which is the yoga of renunciation of action in wisdom or in knowledge, right? So that's the chapter name. There are 42 verses in it. And then the 42 verses are divided in 6 parts. So remember that. The 6 parts is, the first is self is eternal teacher, right? Then how self is related to actions, right? How eternal self is related to action. Then action of enlightened, not binding, right? They are not bind to the results, right? So then the 12 yagnas. Then all yagnas culminate into the wisdom, right? So that's the shlokas. And then last one is Krishna's advice to gain knowledge or wisdom, right? So that is, first one is 1 to 10 shlokas are self is eternal teacher. 11 to 18 is how self is related to the action. Then 19 to 24 is action of enlightened, not binding. Then 25 to 30 is all the 12 yagnas that was given. And then 31 to 37 is all yagna culminate into the wisdom. So which is the biggest, the highest yagna? That is the knowledge, right? That one. And then 38 to 42, he explains the Krishna advice to get the wisdom or get the knowledge. So that's the all 42 shlokas are divided into 6 parts. Now Krishna starts with saying that he has given this same knowledge to many other, like Surya Bhagwan, sun god, Vivanshu, and then Manu, and Manu get to Ishvaku, and then it kept going on. And then he mentioned that this was the knowledge that he gave to everybody, and the knowledge was going from Guru to Shishya. Guru is teacher, Shishya is the student. So it was kept going on, and while it was going on, it got lost. And that's where he comes again and giving the same knowledge to Arjun, right? So he explained that, but more explanation is about him being incarnation, right? Him being incarnation. So he introduced the role of incarnation in these first 10 shlokas, right? So he talks about that, he comes in, he gives this knowledge. So incarnation comes in, and if we talk about the difference between the regular person and incarnation, what is the difference between those? So incarnations, they appear, right? Regular person get born. And how are they born? They're born because of the past karmas, right? So all the regular people are born from the past karma. They have to give back or take back, or something is pending. So they take birth, right? Here, incarnation only appear. There is no connection to the past karma. They appear for a purpose. Man appears, regular person appears for there is no purpose, but they appear, right, without purpose. Incarnation appears with the purpose. Now, another thing is, it's a deeper meaning. You might not understand right now, but you don't have to take it. But I will say it, so in case in future, if you get to know more, you will understand that. Incarnations are appeared directly from Maya. Maya is the source that we get the body, we get the mind, all these things. When Brahman merged to Maya, that's where we appear as body, as Maya is the nature, and Brahman, when they mix, that's where the whole world appears, right? So the incarnation are made up of Maya directly, and regular people, Maya produces 5 elements that makes the other people, other prakriti, right? So there is the make is different, right? It's not the regular make, it's a high valued make. So Maya itself make the incarnated people, whereas Maya produces 5 elements to make the regular people. So the make is different too. So God actually introduced a little bit of incarnation here, that why incarnations are so important, right? And the famous shlok that he says in this was shlok number 7th, right? Was it 7th? Yada, yeah, 7th. So he talks about the purpose of why incarnation comes, right? So it's a very famous song. First, before it says that you and I came in many, many births, but because Arjuna asked him, right? Arjuna said, how come you taught sun, which was long time ago, and you are teaching me? You cannot be the same one. So because Arjuna is so deluded, he is ignored. So Krishna Bhagavan says that you and me had many births. I remember all of them because I am incarnation. I am a special person, right? So I remember all, you don't remember, but you and me have many, many births. Same as us would have many, many births, right? So that's what we are, we get that. So Krishna Bhagavan is explaining that, and then he says why incarnation comes. So incarnation comes where he says, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. So he is talking about incarnation comes for 3 reasons, right? The first reason is to protect the righteousness, right? To protect the righteousness. Then second is to distract the wicked, right? And then third reason is why incarnation comes is establishment of religion, right? So whenever there is a problem in religion or dharma is religion, that what we talk about. So if dharma is not followed, that's where the incarnations come and establish that. So first of all, they help the right people. They come and try to help the right people. So right people have to be there, right, to help them. So there should be people who are trying to establish dharma. So the incarnation comes and help them, right? The second is destruction of wicked, like people who are bad. It's not about people who are bad. The policies that are bad, the things that are going bad, that's where incarnations come. Now, about Krishna Bhagavan, if you look at it, when Krishna Bhagavan was born, the same thing was happening, right? There were righteous people who were trying to establish dharma, religion, and there were people who were trying to destroy it. So there were both kind of people. So he came to help people that are there to establish the dharma, but also people were there who were destroying, so he came to destroy them. So if you look at it, Krishna Bhagavan's story, you will be amazed at what he did. When he was little kid, we talk about that, how he was stealing the makhan and eating it, and then gopis were going around and looking for him, but they all adore him because he was so cute, right? So he was like a little baby, but there was a lesson there too, and we discussed that long. I don't want to discuss that again, but there was a purpose for that, right? Everybody, what's so crazy about Krishna, baby Krishna, that they were so every house had a name of Krishna, right? So when he killed Kansa, what happened? Nobody stood against him. Nobody came and say, Krishna, why did you kill Kans, right? Why? Because everybody in the village, everybody there in the area were so fond of Krishna Bhagavan already when he was little baby, right? So there was a lot of stories behind the things that Krishna Bhagavan did, right? He uplifted women, and then he uplifted students, right? He went to all the schools and uplifted students. So he was trying to help righteous people also. Also he did to destroy the wicked people like Kansa and all the other thing, Duryodhan, who were not letting the dharma to be established, right? So this is what Krishna Bhagavan is explaining here in shlok 7th and 8th, right? So that's what Krishna Bhagavan explained here. then he said that one who understands the divine birth of his, one who understands why Krishna Bhagavan came and why the incarnation comes, one who can understand that and can understand that divinity within us, that person is always ready for enlightenment, right? So he gives the characteristics of what you need to have to get enlightened. Now we talk about four kind of, in duality, we actually study a lot of non-duality, but in duality, if you remember, I talked to you guys about four kind of moksha. That is salupya, where you are in the same town as God. Then samipya, where you are in the same neighborhood as God. Then you are sarupya, you are actually in the same house with God. And then the last one was sarujya, which was in the same merge in God, right? So those were the four kind of moksha. That duality means when there are two, God and you are separate. In that philosophy, there are four kind of moksha. But in non-duality, what do you say? By the grace of God, you get the knowledge and you get to know the Brahman, that everything is Brahman, and you get the oneness of the entire universe. That's for that. So a person can get that by understanding the divine nature of yourself and of God. Now further he explains that how the householder and the monk and monk with social activity, what do they have to do? So he by slok 11th, he start explaining what is the relationship of self with the action, right? So in that case, what happens is, we took an example of screen, right? You remember a movie screen. So what is the action related to the self? Self is the screen, right? So whatever action is done, it doesn't impact the self, right? So whatever action you do, right, whatever action you takes place, your consciousness is not impacted by any action that you do, right? It is like a screen of the movie or the fuel in the car. Those are the examples we took to explain what is the relation between self and the action. There is nothing that is, movie can be horror movie, can be a love story, can be a Krishu band ho gaya. Division is not. I'm going to ask this for the test next week. Yeah. Okay, we'll wait for everybody to join in. Okay, good. So then what happens is okay, what was I saying, Krishna? I forgot. Okay, yeah. So I was talking about okay, got it. So where there is four kind of he explained how the action is related to the self. So self is not impacted by any action, right? Self is not impacted by the action that we do, as screen is not impacted by the movie. If it is horror, if it is romantic movie, or if it is a car chase movie, the screen is all still stays the same, right? So until we don't have the knowledge of the screen is needed to play the movie, right? Without screen, movie cannot play. So without consciousness, our body cannot work, right? Nothing can happen. If consciousness is gone, then what happens? Everything is gone. Then you cannot operate. Your mind, intellect, nothing works without consciousness, right? So without screen, the movie cannot work. But movie doesn't impact the screen. So the body, mind, nothing, intellect doesn't impact your consciousness, right? So we want to understand the difference between the actions that you take and what is the self, right? So self doesn't, like fuel doesn't impact our drive, our distance, how fast we drive, how good we drive, how bad we drive. Movie doesn't impact the fuel doesn't impact that, right? But without fuel, the car cannot drive, right? So we need to understand what is our real self there. Then Krishna Bhagavan explained the difference between action and inaction. You remember that? He talked about what is action, what is inaction, and I don't know, I think it was the 11th shlok. 11th? No, 11th was, it was Nakarman. 18th. But before that, let's come to the shlok number 11th. I want to also explain shlok number 11th.
He talks about the incarnation.
Incarnation, but I wanted to talk about, did I say that whoever you prayer, I take that. So Krishna Bhagavan also mentioned that whatever form you worship, it doesn't matter that it has to be Krishna form, it has to be Shiva form, Vishnu form, or whatever, or or a Devi or a Buddha form, any form that you worship, right? Krishna Bhagavan in 11th shlok says, however you worship, he will take that worship, right? He will recognize that worship, or he will recognize that, and you will get. So if you want an enlightenment and you worship a certain kind of God, he doesn't say that you have to worship the Krishna form, right? We have so many God, but it's not that in basically we have one God but in a different form, right? So we talk about different forms of God, but not that all form of God that you can pick any of them. Yes.
To read an example.
Yeah, you can read it.
So like,
you want to tell?
Yeah.
Be loud little.
So like one example is that, like, let's say like you take yourself, like when other people are introducing you, then like let's say your dad introduced you, they're like, oh, this is my son or my daughter, and then like, or like your friend introduced you, this is my friend, or your sibling introduced you, this is like my brother or sister, and those are like a bunch of different labels, but you're still you. Like I'm still Krish, even if Sean says, oh, this is my brother. So like the same way that God is still God no matter how you worship him, as long as you worship him some way. That's what all God wants you to do.
Yeah, good. So it could be Krishna, it could be Shiva, and everybody introduce one person in different way. Same, we have so many different God that we introduce to everybody, right? Hanumanji is there, then Ganesh is there, then Shiva is there, but it is one God. Everybody worship in a different form, right? So that's what it is. So we worship in a different form, same as Krish gave the example that one person introduced in so many different forms, right? But it is one person. The same way there is one God, though it is introduced in so many forms. But Krishna Bhagavan says it doesn't matter whom you worship. It's not important that who are you worshipping. The important thing is you should worship, right? That's what Krishna Bhagavan's message here is. Then let's go to shlok number 18, where he talks about action and self. We already discussed that. Then in 18th verse he talks about, let's go to the 17th verse, where he says that there are action and inaction, right? Sometimes when we talk about inaction, what happens is everybody takes inaction as not doing any action, right? We talk about if you are doing inaction, there is no action. Like we are sitting down, and if we are not doing anything, we are sitting down without anything, we take that word as inaction. But here God explains what inaction is. If you look in the body, if you look at the transactional world, which is body, mind and intellect, right? We are never in action, right? We are not, even we are sitting down, what's happening is the mind is keep thinking, right? So mind is thinking, so there is no inaction, right? But we think, as a human being, what we think, if you are sitting not doing anything, what will your parents come and say? You are sitting down, do something, right? They will tell, do something. Why are you sitting? You are not doing anything. Come on, help me, right? That's what your parents will come and say. So that Krishna Bhagavan explained that there is action, there is prohibited action, and there is inaction. So make sure that we have difference between all these of them, right? So action is karma, akarma, and vikarma. Vikarma is prohibited action. There are actions that we should not be doing, and we morally we know what ethically and morally we should do and we should not do, right? And then akarma is inaction. So then after this shlok, Krishna Bhagavan explained what is the action and action. And now in this 18th shlok he talks about it, and it is very paradoxical statement that he says. He said, one who sees inaction in action and action in action is the wise, and that's the yogi, right? So remember, that is very famous shlok. So mark verse number 18. That is a very famous shlok about chapter 4. So in this he talks about action in inaction. So somebody who sees inaction in action, right? Who sees that there is no action, we are doing no action whenever we are doing action. And that's a wise person. And now it's a very confusing thing. So we discussed it a lot when we did the class, but I'm going to just go over it real quick. Like screen is not doing any action, though we see a car chase on it or a horror movie going on it, we are seeing a lot of action on it, but the screen is inaction, right? There is no action going on the screen, but like for screen there is no action, but there is a lot of action going on there. So when a person, we are, most of it for the householder people, we have so many things going on, but the person that sees that these all action is not impacting me, the actions that I'm doing is not impacting me what? Me is the real self, the consciousness. That is not impacted. If the person can see that, that person is wise, right? Otherwise what happens is we get so indulged in this world that everything we think that happening is happening because of us or only for me. When something sad thing happen, we say, why me? It is only me that these things are happening and all these actions are happening because of me. But the person, as soon as take himself out of this thing, take himself or herself out of this thing and say that I'm not this body, mind and intellect. So everything that action is happening is for this body, mind. Myself is not impacted by any of these sorrow or happiness going around. When that knowledge comes, that person is a wise person, right? So the person who sees inaction in all the midst of these actions, that person is a wise person, right? So, and the person who sees action in inaction, when the person is seeing that all the things that's happening around him, right, they are in action, that person is a wise person, right? You got my point? So that is a very very good, very beautifully said shlok from that is verse 18, right? And then he explains let's go to which is the verse, then it is important. Then he talks about, so from wise person, so this person who is wise, right, who takes inaction in action, who understands what self does, what is self related with the action, this person is free from desires, whose desires are burned from the fire of knowledge, and that person is a sage, right? So he explained who is the wise person. Now this wise person who has the knowledge of his self, if he goes and he burns, he gets all this knowledge, what happens to him? All his desires are burned off because he sees inaction. Then what happens is this person becomes a sage. Sage is not a person who is like wandering sage and a monk. So sage can be a person who is householder, who is doing all these things in, taking care of all the things, worldly things, but then eventually they are not impacted by all these actions that are going around them, right? So that's how he explained it. Then he goes to so the example says like the seed roasted in a fire. When the seed is roasted in a fire, they look the same. Like, if you take the peanuts and you roast in the fire, they look the same as the peanuts they were before, right? That it doesn't change. But then what happens is the one that are roasted are never can be it cannot be sprouted. They cannot sprout. The beans that are not fried or not roasted can sprout. So the same way, the actions of these people who are already enlightened, what happens to their actions? They don't sprout, means their results don't come, the consequences doesn't come to those people's action. So any actions that they take, and their consequences doesn't come. And in later shlok we understand that none of the karmas are impacted for those people, right? So the action and the consequences are not impacted to the enlightened people. That's what in the nutshell Krishna Bhagavan is telling. And then he talks about how like 3 different kind of people, how their actions are not got impacted. So the first one is the householder person. So the householder person who renunciate the attachment of the actions or the fruit of actions, and they are ever content. Those people in the full midst of action, those actions doesn't get consequences for them, right? Then they talk about monk. So for monk, what happens is monk leave the desires, they control mind and body, with all possession relinquished, doing merely bodily things. That person also they don't inquires the sin. That's what the monk people do, right? Then he explained the third category was monk or householder doing the social work. For that, there are 5 characteristics that he mentioned, right? So the first one is content with whatever chance brings. Then they are resigning about the pairs of opposite. Opposite means sun and dark, like kind of opposite. So happiness and sorrow. So they rise above those success and failure. They rise above those opposites. And then free from jealousy, right? When you do a lot of work, this person, monk or householder with the social activity, means they are doing a lot of work, right? So when they are doing a lot of work, jealousy comes, right? Remember, jealousy comes when you have a desire, right? Remember that jealousy doesn't come for the things that you don't desire, right? If you don't want to live in a big house, if you see a big house, with jealousy will come? The jealousy will not come because you don't have desire to live in a big house. But if you have a desire to drive a good car, if you see a good car, you will feel jealous because you have a desire to drive a good car. So jealousy always is a byproduct of desire. So if you don't have desire, there is no jealousy. If you have desire, then jealousy comes, right? So this person should be, if they are doing social activity, if you are doing action, then this person should be free from jealousy. Right? The desire should not come to gain any fame, right? Mostly what happens in social work, when you do a social work or you do a voluntary work, what happens is the fame thing comes in place. Oh, I should get fame out of it. or I should get good name out of this, or people should know I'm doing such a good job, or people should know that I'm so good, right? So the fame part comes in. So then says, oh, I do so much work, but the credit goes to the other person. Why are the credit going to the other person when I'm doing so much work? So all these things comes when jealousy, when you do a work, social work. So he is saying that person should be free from jealousy, undisturbed by success and failure, and his is never bound with the action. So he gave 3 examples of 3 different people, how their actions, they don't bound to the actions, right? So these 3 examples, make sure you memorize those 3 examples. Then he talks about the most famous slok number 24, right? So slok number 24, was it 24? Brahma Arpanam Brahma Havi?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm opening 25. Okay. So then when he talks about yagna, which Sane covered very well today, all the 12 yagnas, it's going to come next, but he ends the topic by this slok, right? Brahma Arpanam Brahma Havir, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahma Tena Gantavya, Brahma Karma Samadhi. So he talks about that offering is the yagna. He starts the whole thing yagna. He's explaining how the yagnas start, and then he talks about the act of offering is Brahman, like everything is Brahman. So he's giving the example of yagna and talking about that the whole yagna is Brahman. The person who is offering is Brahman, the Agni is Brahman, the yagna, the kund that we are offering in is Brahman, the oblation is Brahman. So he's just saying that everything is one that he's explaining. Everything is Brahman, it comes in Brahman. So he talks about that, the ultimate teaching of Advaita, that everything is Brahman, including living and non-living. And now he introduced that the action is Brahman too. So far we were saying that we are Brahman, right? We ourselves is Brahman. We are never saying that all other things are Brahman too. Now what happens in this slok, he explained everything is Brahman, right? So he introduced this, the living, non-living, all the actions that we do, everything is Brahman. So that he explained. So it is most famous slok. As I said, there are a lot of people sing this slok before eating food, because it says that everything we are giving, we are eating, we are offering to God, that going in our system, everything is Brahman. That's what we pray, and then we start eating. So after this slok, he explained all the 12 yagnas, which I'm not going to go over because I think you guys got a good notes on that one. So it's important, so make sure you don't miss studying about it. But I will skip right now to explain you, because I don't think so we have enough time to explain that. So all 12 yagnas are done by slok number 30th. So we're gonna skip the whole 5-6 sloks here, and then we will go to slok number we will go to slok number 32, where Krishna Bhagavan says that many such forms of sacrifice have been set forth in detail in Vedas. There are many other, it's not just these 12, there are many other sacrifices, yagnas are given in Vedas that everybody can read. But then he says in next slok that the yagna that he mentioned in Brahma Arpanam Brahmavi is the most highest yagna for you to do. The lower self to the higher self, right? That's the one that you have, that's the one that is more higher than sacrificing gifts, money, material things that we sacrifice in yagna, means those things that we give. But he is saying that getting knowledge, acquiring knowledge is the highest one than all the other yagnas that he explained, right? Then I think he talks about how we can get that knowledge. He gives 3 things. Salutation to the, first of all, find the guru, right? Or because this literature, the literature that we have, the scriptures that we have, to make it understand in nowadays, you have to have a guru who can understand this knowledge and pass it on to you. So first, find the guru. Second, with that guru, you have to have 3 things: salutation, inquiry, and service, right? That's where you should get. So remember those 3 topics. And then guru also have a qualities, right? We don't want to get a guru anybody. We want the guru that is master, Kshotriya, that has a akarmata, who doesn't have a desire by teaching anything, like he is not having a personal gain to teach this thing. And then Brahmanishta, who is also on the path of enlightenment. That guru has to have these 3 qualities. That guru should teach you. Then he says, if when you acquire this knowledge, what happens to you? You are no longer deluded, and the light of knowledge will make you see the whole creation in yourself, right? So when you get this knowledge, slowly what's going to happen is you're going to start realizing the Brahman oneness of the whole universe. So when you get that knowledge, you will see that, and then we will see God in yourself too. Like God means this Brahman in yourself. So that's what he says. And the person who is on this path, if he is most sinful, his all sins are taken care of, like it goes away, like the draft makes cross the river, the boat crosses all your sins away. So whatever sins you have done, if you are on this path, it goes away, right? And then he gives another example. The sin only goes away when you have that blazing fire to go on this path. You should be like passionate on going on this path. It has to have blazing fire, like fire burns the wood or burns its own fuel to ashes. The same way, knowledge that you get burns your actions to ashes. So there is no karmas attached to you, no actions are attached to you, right? So that's what happens here. And he talks about the 3 things that when the fire of knowledge, what it does, it protects you from the prarabdha karma, it destroys the sanchit karma, and there is no agami karma bound to you, right? So 3 things happens when you get this knowledge. This fire destroys the prarabdha karma, protects you from the prarabdha karma. So prarabdha karma, we are born with it, right? So it protects you from there. It destroys the sanchit karma, means all the actions that are accumulated for you for taking another birth, it destroys it. And then the third thing is, it actually has no agami karma. Any karma that you're going to do in future that doesn't give you added onto your account, right? So that's what happens when you are in this fire of knowledge. So he explains that, and then last thing he says, the person who has faith, commitment, and commitment, who has faith, commitment, and self-control. These 3 things the person who has, they can easily walk on this path. He has to have a faith, right? We talk about it. The commitment. And on commitment, I will tell you guys, we have done 4th chapter now. Like the commitment that you guys have to come to this Gita class, it's amazing, right? Half of the work you have done. So you guys have faith and you guys have commitment. Many people come to these classes. I will tell you, you kids are, you should be proud of yourself. They came and they left. You have seen in these classes, right? Because a lot of people join in, they left. A a lot of people came in and they left, and you have done all, like we have done how many classes so far?
There's like
90 classes, right? And you guys are stable in this, right? It's a big commitment. So if I talk to you guys and say, okay, do you guys have faith? Do you guys have commitment? And do you have self-control? I think all of us are working towards it, but definitely I'm so proud of your commitment to come to this class. Otherwise, it's very easy to drop out of this class. It's little boring. It's not relatable sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it's saying something that you will feel like, what it's important for me at this moment. Oh, when I am gonna grow older, I will listen to it and figure it out. But to stay through that, it's commendable. So great job, guys, for that. So he talks about those three. Then he, at the end, he says, he who is ignorant, the person who is ignorant, which is all of us, who has lack of faith and who has doubted mind, they will never get happiness in this world or any other world, right? So the person who is in this, the opposite characteristics of the person that we were talking before, they will never have a happiness, right? There will be always, they will end up not having happiness at the end. And then the last slok he talks about the person who renounced the fruit of action through yoga. Yoga means the knowledge that we will get, whose doubt has been destroyed by the knowledge, who is self-possessed, means who on this spiritual path, he is possessed to the path. That person will be not bound with the actions. So that's why it says Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. When we says action, not bound with the action, we always talk about, the person who doesn't do the action, that is good. If I don't do any action. It's saying, no, you have to keep doing action, right? We already talk about Karma Yoga. We have to keep doing the action. But why? We don't want to attach to the action or fruit of the actions. So he's talking about that. When we understand that the self, that's our real self, then we don't get attached to the action or fruit of action. And that person doesn't attach to the karmas, then they don't get the birth, because all the accumulated karma are expired. So then the birth doesn't come, and this person is enlightened person, right? So at the end he says, that's why Arjun, get the knowledge and stand up, right? So for us also, Krishna Bhagavan is saying, get this knowledge and stand up and do your actions. Never say that I don't want to do any action. Do your action, but don't get attached to the action or fruit of action, but do the action, right? So that's what the whole summary of chapter number 4. There are few good shloks that beautiful shloks that we should memorize or read about it. But we will actually memorize the chapter 12 first, and then we will see what are the other important shloks that we want to memorize, right? Okay, let's close it, and hopefully we will have fun time next week. We might have some games or something that I will organize so that we can revise in a fun way this chapter 4 one more time. Okay, let's close it. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamshachanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Para Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Krishna Arpanamastu. Okay guys, thank you for being there.